There was a major survey of archivists in the spring of 2023. Around 60% of the respondents reported that their organizations were planning to use artificial intelligence technologies. Just 9 months later, a similar survey of research libraries showed that 95% were making such plans. Archives and libraries are looking to make big investments in AI and machine learning technology. If you watch the first video in this series, you know that I think there are a lot of great opportunities here. But I've been talking with staff and leaders in the US, UK, and Europe over the past few months, and they tell me that it's not a wide open road ahead of us. In this video, we'll look at some of the hazards that archives face using this technology and how they can navigate them. I'm Adam Farquhar. I'm the founder of Digital Lifecycle Management. My background is in helping archives, libraries, and cultural heritage organizations to understand and apply advanced technologies with a focus on AI and machine learning. This video is being created as part of the European Commission's E-Archiving initiative, which provides specifications, software, training, and knowledge to help people store information for longer. Perhaps the biggest barriers come from our own expectations. We've seen this broadly with AI and machine learning technologies over the past decade. Our expectations are both too high and too low. Sometimes we imagine that AI is going to solve all our problems. It will handle selection and description at the level of an experienced archivist. It will advise our users and help them understand both collections and context. It will answer the most challenging questions. It might even make us obsolete. But sometimes we imagine that AI is going to be worse than useless. It's going to be flaky, inconsistent, disappointing. It will give biased summaries. It will be insensitive to past context as well as modern understanding. It will make things up, insult our users. It will not know where its boundaries are. This shouldn't come as a surprise. These are powerful general-purpose technologies. They're developing and evolving very quickly. And to make matters worse, we're inundated, on the one hand, by boosters who overhype AI, as well as skeptics who refuse to acknowledge its positive impacts. These large language models have a kind of breadth and depth of information that no system has had before. But this doesn't mean they actually immediately solve our business problems. Useful deployed systems require engineering, integration, support, ongoing development, and mostly they need deep engagement with end users. Sometimes I compare these tools to a bright new hire with a fresh degree. Someday, they may solve all my problems or replace me when I move to a new role, but you know what? Right now, they need help. They need onboarding. They need help figuring out the ins and outs of the job, professional development, and management. As we use this AI technology in our daily lives, we'll become more familiar with it, and our expectations will kind of settle down, right? We'll be able to steer more confidently towards the advantages and away from the problems that they pose. Archival materials reflect the biases and cultural context of their time. We accept this. It gives them actually a lot of their research value. We also know that activities like summarization and description introduce their own biases, and this is true if a person makes the summary or if an AI system like a large language model does it. Over the years, I think we've become much more aware of how data-driven systems reproduce biases that were present in their data. There have been many examples of this in the news. Image generators that produce ahistorical results like diverse stormtroopers, HR systems that perpetuate biases by learning from old hiring patterns, or facial recognition systems that are trained on one type of face but are very poor then at distinguishing between faces of other types. These are serious concerns. Fortunately, we share them with many others. There's a lot of pressure on developers to improve training, to recognize and to reduce unwanted bias. In spite of that, we need to be vigilant. We need to recognize and mitigate biases in the systems that we deploy. Privacy and confidentiality are serious concerns. Archives have very real responsibilities to protect confidential information. Yes, we can be stewards of public records, but we can also hold the most sensitive data. We can hold health data, information about young or vulnerable people, even records with national security implications. So before we transfer archival records to third parties, we really need rock-solid guarantees and clear regulatory frameworks. Fortunately, this is not impossible. Many businesses trust information to data centers run by third parties. The EU's cloud computing initiatives are also going a long way towards providing the kind of services and guarantees that we need. There's one more way we can ensure privacy and confidentiality. We can actually run these AI systems in environments that we control. We can now run high-quality models and systems locally or using a secure cloud computing environment. I wrote a June blog post showing how easy it can be to run LLMs on local hardware, and I'll include a pointer in the description below. There are ongoing concerns about large language models, copyright, and IP. This is not at all a settled area. There are major lawsuits in process against companies that develop generative AI systems going on right now. I've seen three sets of concerns. The first is about using material to train large language models. This training needs content that's up to date. It needs formal written language like news articles or scientific papers, and it also needs informal communication like tweets, Reddit comments, or text messages. A lot of this information is publicly available, but a lot of it is also in copyright. Second is about people using generative AI systems to create content in the style of an artist or perhaps to misappropriate an artist's voice or image. Deepfake video is an extreme example here. Third is about people teasing out copyrighted text in a few lines at a time from a system that might have been designed for another purpose. If people had known that their content would be used to train large language models, they might have made very different decisions about sharing it or how they licensed it. Many of the companies that are developing this AI technology are based in the US at the moment, and that means we need to keep a pretty sharp eye on lawsuits that are going on there. And this month, a US judge dismissed key claims in a lawsuit that was brought by open source developers against Microsoft, OpenAI, and GitHub. It's about GitHub Copilot, which is a system that helps developers write code. I've used it. It's amazing. It was trained on millions of lines of open source code from the GitHub repository. The plaintiffs claim that it generates unauthorized copies without attribution, and it infringes on developers' rights. Turns out, though, that Copilot revises code to ensure that it doesn't generate a copy identical to something in the repo. As a result, I think the judge dismissed this copyright claim with prejudice. It's going to be super interesting to see how this ongoing case develops in the coming year. So there's a serious hazard here. It lies in the lack of clarity. The behavioral norms, ethical guidelines, and the law are all in flux. But here in Europe, there's some big progress in providing more clarity. The EU AI Act is the world's first comprehensive AI legislation. It has now been published and it takes effect on August 1st. This is a big deal for everyone touched by AI. It covers systems deployed within the EU, but it also covers systems outside of the EU that affect EU citizens. And it's got sharp teeth. Fines can be up to 7% of a company's global income. So here's my not a lawyer summary of what the Act does. It sets up a risk-based framework. It categorizes AI systems into 4 different risk levels. First are unacceptable risk systems. These threaten EU citizens' fundamental rights. This includes systems, for instance, that mislead and manipulate people, create social scoring systems based on behavior, or ones that might deny access to government services. Advertising is not included in this category. Second are high-risk AI systems. These have strong transparency obligations and require deep familiarity with the upcoming guidelines. This is the real meat of the Act. Examples include systems that manage critical infrastructure, support university admissions, or help to make hiring decisions. Third Our limited risk AI systems, these have quite modest transparency obligations. Users need to know that a system is AI-based and have the option not to use it. Examples include chatbots and many content-generating systems. 4 are the minimal risk AI systems. These have no obligations under the Act, and examples might include AI-enabled video games or spam filters. When I first started learning about the EU AI Act, I read a lot of doom and gloom. Pundits predicted that it would destroy competition and hold Europe back. And I have to say, I disagree. The risk-based approach is flexible. I like that it's not about technology, but it's about how it is used. The types of systems in the different categories feel pretty sensible, and the obligations under them seem appropriate. We'll have to keep an eye on the guidelines, but the direction of travel feels really good to me. Okay, so what does this mean for archives that are thinking about developing or deploying AI-based systems? So I think the news is positive. We will almost without exception be working with limited or minimal risk systems. That means that our obligations under the Act will be very modest. In practice, these are going to feel a little like obligations under GDPR. They could be mildly annoying to both end users and implementers. There will be some uncertainty as to whether we're doing them exactly right, but in reality, most cases will find that it's not that much work to comply. If you want to check your system's category, the Commission provides an interactive tool, and I'll put a link to it in the description below. So my bottom line, EU AI Act is a big deal, but it will not get in our way. We can move ahead with our plans to use AI in archives. For some staff, in some organizations, building new skills can be a serious undertaking. They have already got a full-time job, and they don't have the energy to invest in learning this new stuff, especially when deployment might be speculative or far off. That means that we need to compensate with great leadership. In addition to bringing in some outside support, we need to build up cross-functional teams and develop our existing staff so that they can move our plans forward. We need to set aside time and resources to make sure that staff who want to have opportunities to learn. But sometimes this isn't going to be enough. Perhaps your staff have experienced costly IT investments that didn't deliver. I know organizations that have had that. If you expect pushback resulting from that kind of thing, it may help actually to start small, show some success, build experience, and move on from there. I'm going to talk more about that in a future video. At the end of the day, though, the biggest worry that staff has is about displacement. And in the short term, I just don't expect this to happen. Well-deployed AI technology is going to enable us to acquire more material, describe it more thoroughly, and make it more available to more people in more ways. Eventually, it's going to make us more efficient, but in the short term, it's going to require more resources, not less. I think the medium and long-term considerations are pretty complex, and if I was starting out in an archive today, I would definitely want to understand how to use and apply AI technology. AI, machine learning, large language models, these powerful technologies will transform archival practice and drive major changes in our organizations and our businesses. They bring some risk, but we can't avoid them any more than we could avoid the internet or digital collections. This means that we need to understand them well enough to make smart choices and good plans. And that's why we've been making this video series. The first 2 videos covered opportunities and barriers. In the next few, we'll look at more specific processes and technologies. Now, I need to hear from you. We've got some super topics in progress for future videos, but what would you like to hear about? Perhaps a short explainer for the EU AI Act. Do you want to know why AI needs GPUs? Are you looking for practical first AI projects? Or do you want to see AI systems that people have already put in place? Let me know in the comments or contact me at Digital Lifecycle Management. We're trying to make these videos informative, accessible, and valuable to our community. And if you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and if you want to hear about our next one, hit subscribe and share these videos across your network. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.